everyone, my name is Sam, and thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the bell notification thing, and give the video a thumbs up. So I had a pretty decent reading week overall. I read about, I finished 5 books, and I kind of put one book back on the shelf, and I kind of started reading another one that I'm going to take my time reading just because there's like a readathon going on, and I'll get to it when I get to it kind of thing. But yeah, let's get started on those 5 books I got to talk about. So the first book that I read this week was Daughter of the Siren Queen by Tricia Levenseller. This is the sequel to Daughter of the Pirate King, and I actually had a chance to read the arc several months ago. So I was excited to read the finished copy, and it kind of coincided really perfectly that there was a group read of the duology going on in the TBR and Beyond book group. So I was able to finish it and then chat with people about it, which is always awesome. And the chat going on for this is happening next week or this upcoming week or something like that. So I'm really excited about this. But this picks up where our first book really ended. We learn more about Alosa's Siren side, and we learn a lot about her father, and she has to make some decisions with her crew and about her family and her romantic relationship. It's kind of very left up in the air with Raiden at the end of Daughter of the Pirate King, and it's very interesting in this book because they don't have that same like witty banter. They're both like fully aware that they're into each other, but now they have to like, she almost like doesn't believe him. She's like, he's just trying to do it to like save his brother, all that kind of stuff, and you know, she doesn't know how to admit to feelings without like losing her position in the hierarchy of being the captain on the ship. And you meet her wonderful little ragtag group of mates on the ship, and we took a couple of the people from first book and they become crews on this ship, and it's just such a I didn't love it the same way I did the first one, but I don't think you really had to. I still ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars, I think. It just didn't have the same kind of banter, which was I loved about the first book, but this book I really loved like the ragtag teamness of it, and you see Alosa really grow as a character. She's kind of a fully formed human with lots of sarcasm and everything in the first book, whereas this book, you know, she has to change and adapt, and it was just thoroughly enjoyable and a super quick read again, and I am just really excited to see what else Tricia Levenseller writes. She's got a Viking book coming out in winter 2019 or so it's a bit of a time to wait, but I'm really excited about that, and I will definitely continue rereading the series. It's one of my favorites. I also this week picked up Parsnips Buttered by Joe Lysat, How to Win in a Modern World, One Email at a Time. If you don't watch any British TV, he's one of my favorite comedians of all time. He's I think he lives, can't remember specifically where, but in England, and his like whole like thing is that he sends passive-aggressive, super sarcastic, completely awkward, off-the-wall emails to people. You know, he's got a parking ticket fine before. He sent an email to them saying, you know, if you make me pay this fine, I'm going to have to starve some of the sick and dying children at the orphanage I work at. You know, it's up to you. You got to pick kind of thing. And it's just like all of his emails and these weird situations and where he takes them that I would just think nothing of it. I laughed so hard through this whole book. It's actually a library copy. I am going to buy my own copy. It's just such a fun, light, quick read. And I was actually crying at the end of it, just like of pure laughter. It's just, I don't even understand how his brain functions. It's just so thoroughly enjoyable, and if you like that kind of comedy and like, or just like customer service stories and like all that kind of stuff, like, or if you've ever watched the show Rostered On, that kind of stuff, this would probably be a really good book for you to read and a really good comedian for you to follow. It's just, I don't even know how to describe. It's just hilarious. Like it's just perfect book for me. I love his comedy style, and it just takes his, you know, stage persona and stories and puts it in a book format. And you get a couple more stories than you would if he was just on like the 1 hour stand-up, you know, time limit. So definitely highly recommend this. It's super, 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 super funny. I also did another reread this week of Nevermore: The Trials of Morgan Crowe by Jessica Townsend. Absolutely love this book. I read it, I think in like November or late December or beginning of December, something like that, the first time, and absolutely loved it and picked up my own copy. It is actually the middle grade read of the month for March in the TBR and Beyond book group as well. So I went and reread it, and it's just so sweet and adorable. Our main character, Morgan Crowe, was born on, you know, kind of a dark day in her town's, you know, calendar, and people just assume that people born on that day are, you know, cursed. So anytime anything goes wrong in the town, could have nothing even remotely to do with her, she automatically gets blamed. And these children born on that date normally only make it to their 12th birthday before they are kind of taken, to death. However, this town also has kind of like a betting kind of system where once every year or so, there's a specific date where people go and, make a bet saying, I want this child to come train at my school. And essentially take them on as an apprentice. Expecting to, not expecting anything because she's supposed to die in the next year. Morrigan randomly gets bet on by all these people and no one understands what's going on. Everyone's angry because they don't think that she deserves it. And then all of a sudden, a year before it's supposed to happen, death comes knocking. And things just go off the deep end. Someone shows up and takes her to this new world where she has to prove and justify her spot, and there's only 9 spots total, but she has to have a certain knack, and she doesn't know what it is, and she's there illegally as well. So she's dodging all these different bullets and learning all these different things, and there's a very Harry Potter-y feel to it. There's kind of a Hagrid character. You have almost a Dudley kind of character as well, but he ends up being, switching from a Dudley to a Ron, and there's a giant cat, and there's just so many cool, like things that they have to do in this world to, prove themselves, competitions and everything. It's just so much fun. It's not even just for middle grades, it's just really anyone at any age level. I would be shocked if anyone read this and didn't thoroughly enjoy it. So I would really highly recommend it. Once again, gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I also got to my arc that I had for Arlo Finch in the Valley of Fire by John August. This book is actually out, and actually I think it was the Owl Crate Jr. Book of the Month for March or February. I'm not totally sure, but I've seen it on my newsfeed a lot, actually. But I picked up an arc of this at a conference, and I wasn't totally sure what exactly it was. It was a little bit vague, but our main character, Arlo Finch, him, his sister, and his mom have just moved back to his mom's small town in Colorado that borders a forest, and they've moved in with their uncle who owns this kind of sketchy cabin on the outskirts of this already very small town. His dad has actually fled the United States and is living in China because they kind of hint around at it, but he essentially hacked government information and from the sounds of it released it, so he is hiding in China avoiding prosecution. So they, he's dealing with, missing his dad. His mom's dealing with kind of becoming a single parent and having to find wages, and she's having an even harder time just because she was an accountant and a bookkeeper, which, it's hard to get people to trust you to do that job when, they know who your husband is. And they interact with some kids in town. They find there's some weird things going on in the town. Arlo Finch, as soon as he gets here, he starts seeing creatures, a dog that, couldn't possibly be alive anymore, and one of his friend's sisters went missing, and no one seems to be, pushing forward on finding out where she is exactly, and he's hearing weird things, and he starts seeing kind of like a senator following around and chasing him, and all these really interesting things. And, it'd be hard if he was alone, but he manages to join the Rangers in in this little town, and he makes some friends, and it's a lot of camaraderie and making a family out of what you have, and using that as your support system, but also being, independent enough that you can take care of yourself, but don't shun those people and use the resources that you have. And I just thoroughly, really, really enjoyed this entire premise and the characters, and it had its kind of scary for middle grade parts, but there's also lots of fun. They build a sled and they do competitions, and there's just so much kind of going around, and he does it really well, not awkwardly, that's not humanly possible well, but, he's dealing with lots of different things, and you get to see him going through all that and see people's roles in that, how his mom is taking on all this stuff as well, and his uncle. His uncle is a character, and I'm sure we're going to find out more about his uncle in the next book in the series, or the ones after, but it is book 1 in the series. I'm not sure if it's going to be a trilogy or what, but I would really recommend picking up a copy of it. I am going to pick up my own physical copy of it. I've only seen it once in a bookstore, and I thought it was kind of expensive, so I'm going to look around a little bit. But I would really highly recommend this. It's a really good one, especially for young boys. I give it like a 4.5 or 5 out of 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. And the last book that I read this week was Daughters of the Storm by Kim Wilkins. I actually didn't know this until I started reading it, but this book actually came out several years ago, in Australia, so I guess they finally bought the rights for North America and are kind of, pushing it now. I don't know if I liked this book or not. It's so hard. But we have our main character. Well, there's 5 no, that's not even true. There are 5 daughters, and then there's a couple extra main characters going on. But there are 5 daughters of a king, and it starts out with the king. He's got, he's sick. They don't know what's going on all of a sudden. And they go in and kind of evaluate him. His daughters show up, and they realize that he's been essentially cursed. And they automatically assume it's their stepmom, his new wife, because that stepmom, as soon as she realized that he was sick and, potentially going to be dying, she called on her son, who is the king's stepson, not the rightful heir, to show up. So they kind of think she's trying to attempt to steal power. I think I liked it, but there were parts of it that weren't great to me. I think that's my problem, but I can't figure out if one weighs out the other kind of situation. But we have our main sisters. There's Bluebell, who, in all honesty, is the only one with a head on her shoulders. She's the only one reason that anything gets done in this entire book. She's the only one that stays on the original path, the only one with, any sort of common sense in every situation. And yet everyone kind of refers to her as, the bully, or, they call her Iron Tits a couple times, too. She's just and she's not even a super duper strong female. She's just a very basic logical person. Her sisters complain about her and all that kind of stuff, which I kind of found super annoying. I wanted more of her because she did seem like the only logical character that made any sense, that I could understand, that I was rooting for. And she's the oldest, and she is set to take over from her father. Then we have Ash, who has these kind of powers that kind of slowly develop over the course of the book, which I think she was definitely a bearable character, but I don't think I fully understood exactly what was going on with her, or it just wasn't as developed kind of the way that I would want it. But she has these powers, very unique powers that she ends up helping Bluebell with a lot, but she is kind of on her own kind of path. It reminds me a lot of the younger brother in Game of Thrones, where he doesn't appear in an entire season. He's just off doing his own thing, and then he randomly appears and you're like, oh my god, I totally forgot about you. But they eventually come in handy with, magic and everything like that. There is also a sister, Ivy, who is an absolute moron. I was just begging for George R. R. Martin to red wedding her. I was done with her basically right at the beginning. She was enormously annoying and frustrating character, and she had a lot of screen time. And she's very selfish, and she is married to a king that essentially their country has constantly been warring with. So she was married to that king for an alliance to stop the fighting. And I get that that's never a great situation. However, she does not make herself, she almost too victimizes herself, that you're just kind of, then you're like, I don't even care anymore. Yeah, you're a horrible person. This should all be happening to you. But she's cheating on her husband with her husband's nephew. And, she's had a kid, and it's not the king's kid, but, everyone apparently knows except for the king, yet somehow it hasn't made it back to the king after several years. And naturally, she gets caught, big shocker there, right at the beginning, and it just snowballs all of these different issues, and it's Bluebell constantly. It's don't do this. You're putting all these people at risk. You are being selfish in this. I know this isn't a good situation, but you need to listen to me. This is why this is happening. We'll try and get you out of the situation in the future, but we need you to just hold on, because things are so delicate right now. And she's just like, whatever, and then hooks up with the nephew in the forest. Oh my god, she's just an infuriating character, and I think she's the real issue with my review on this and my rating on it. I really detest her as a character, and just people like her, and she just has a ton of screen time in this. Yeah, so the annoying one, that one was Rose. And then there is Ivy, who I don't know that it specifies her age, but she's 16-ish. She is also very selfish, very self-centered, and honestly immensely stupid. I don't understand how people could have raised these, someone like Bluebell and then raised someone like Ivy. They do explain that the youngest 2 daughters, Ivy and Willow, were born and their mother died right away. So maybe that could be why it's never really thoroughly explained. But, she's so stupid and boy crazy and frustratingly stupid. Essentially she starts having an affair with Rose's husband, and then she thinks as a joke that it would be a good idea to tell Rose's husband that she knows is a marriage alliance to keep things together that are already crumbling. She's like, yeah, she's actually cheating on you. And she thought it was funny. She full on says in here, she said it to try and ease the tension, and thought it would be funny to him, and it's his reaction of, what? That makes her realize at the age of 16, after having romance with him, that it's probably not a good idea, that she should have told them. And then our last sister, Willow, I don't know that I really have an opinion on her. I just don't think she had much role in the actual story. It was also a little bit awkward and uncomfortable too that she's going through this whole like religious kind of essentially like converting to a different religion that her sisters and country aren't a part of, and it's kind of like a heathen kind of thing. But she's kind of like hearing voices in her head, and she self-harms because of it, which was extremely uncomfortable. But yeah, so then we also get the perspective of Rose's lover, which I honestly don't get their whole romance at all, and then the overall stepbrother of these guys. That I think my big issue, especially with Rose overall and like the book itself, was a lot of the problems are based around Rose's infidelity with her husband's nephew Heath. And the problem is they kind of paint it as this like Romeo and Juliet relationship of like the star-crossed lovers, but we never get the prequel stuff. We just jump in the middle of them being, you know, star-crossed and having an illegitimate child that they're lying about who the father is. And even though they'll fit the father who thinks he's the father but isn't the father, you know, you kind of end up feeling bad for him in this situation, even though I don't think I was supposed to. I mean, it's just, I don't know, you're just thrown in the middle of it and you're like, guys, like, you don't get any of that pre-setup that would help you justify, you know, going against the grain and risking literally your country's life to, you know, hook up in the forest. And we don't see any like relationship building between them. We just see lust. That's it. It's just constant wanting lust like that. And so it's very hard to like be able to justify the things that Rose and Heath do. And I don't know. I don't know what to do with this book. I think it's the first in a series as well. So, oh yes, it definitely is after this ending. There's definitely like lots of places that it can go in a sequel. And I really hope we get to learn more about, you know, the different religions, because we learned about how like this other religion is like the heathen religion. You don't want to convert to that. But then one of the sisters is kind of converting, and she is definitely going to be playing a role in the next book. So I'm really curious to see exactly what they do with that and the magic system. I want to know more about Ash because she has such unique powers, but I feel like it's just kind of like thrown randomly in there. It wasn't like built all that well, but I think there's potential for where the books can go with it. So I'm super curious. I think I'll definitely continue reading the series. I think I'll continue reading the series. I know that was a super long explanation to Daughters of the Storm. However, it is an adult book, and there's lots of like inner monologue and like info everywhere, and you know, it's easier to just run through Arlo Finch and the Valley of Fire. Actually, I will say about Daughters of the Storm though, super happy about the cover change that they did, because they have the Australian covers. At least I've seen the covers I've seen online. That is what they look like, and that looks like garbage to me. I would never pick up a book with that cover. And I don't feel like it's a great representation of the actual book. Like, the main character is constantly on the road. She's not doing it in a ball gown. What is that? And like, I don't know. So I thoroughly enjoy the American, US, Canada covers a lot on that end. So those are all the books that I read this week. Let me know in the comment section what you read this week. If you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. If I've persuaded you to buy some. I hope you buy Nevermore Arlo Finch for sure, because they were really cute. Or Joe Lycett's book. Or Daughter of the Siren Queen. And maybe Daughters of the... I don't know. Probably all of them, really. But yeah, so let me know in the comment section. Make sure to check the description box down below as well. I link all of the books to their Goodreads pages, as well as links to all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back.